All right, guys, wanted to wait a few extra minutes to make sure nothing snuck in under the deadline, but it looks like the NFL trade deadline is over and all moves have been made and all bets are final. So, no more NFL trades until next year after the season, and the die is cast. The die is even more cast than it was before. So, the Seahawks, of course, did nothing else. I thought there was a possibility we could still go after a player like a Carl Lawson. I thought there was a small chance that we would go after an interior offensive lineman, but realistically, we shot our shot with the Leonard Williams trade. So the book on that is pretty well closed. However, there was a lot of stuff that happened across the NFL in the last several hours, and while a lot of it isn't super relevant to us as Seahawks fans, there was one thing that happened that is very relevant, and we got to talk about it for a little bit here. Chase Young. Chase Young got traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a third round pick. So Washington actually traded Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They got more for Montez Sweat than Chase Young, which is interesting. I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected that. So a lot of people are freaking out about this in the Seahawks world. A lot of people are wondering why we paid more to get Leonard Williams than Chase Young. A lot of people are wondering what that team is going to look like with Chase Young going forward. There's a lot of stuff, and people aren't exactly thrilled about it in Seahawks world because the Niners got better. And they certainly did. They didn't lose any current assets, they lost a future asset to get Chase Young. So let's talk about this just a little bit here and try to understand exactly where this is coming from. So, first, I want to talk about the people who are unhappy with the fact that we gave up more to get Leonard Williams than Washington did, San Fran did to get Chase Young. I think the reason why this is quite simply this Chase Young trade is almost certainly a 1 year rental or a half-year rental, however you want to look at it. Chase Young is an edge rusher. Edge rushers get paid like crazy. He's in the middle of a very good year. PFF has him at 38 pressures. So he's averaging like 5 pressures a game. He's got 5 sacks already, 5.5 or whatever it is. So Chase Young, regardless of the fact that he does have some injuries in his history, regardless of the fact that honestly before this year he was headed toward Bustville, is probably going to command monster money this offseason. I think it could get up to 30 million a year given his pedigree. So because of that, there's just no way the Niners are going to be able to keep him. They've already paid Bosa, they paid Armstead, they need to pay Ayuk if they're even going to be able to do that now. They might end up needing to pay a quarterback. Like a lot of people think they're going to go get Kirk Cousins. Obviously now you have to call that into question. But they've got Trent Williams, they've got CMC, they've got Debo. They are right up against it as is. In fact, in order to facilitate this deal, Washington is paying Chase Young most of the money for this year. Now, it's not a huge amount of money because he's a rookie and he's still on the 4th year of that rookie deal, but it's still notable that something like that needed to happen. So it would be very hard, excruciatingly hard, borderline impossible for the Niners to keep Chase Young after this season. So this is a rental for 9 games plus playoffs. So the Niners can't give up that much. The Niners can't give up a second round pick. They can't give up a first round pick. Giving up that kind of draft capital for a guy who barely plays for you is it's a it's something that cannot happen. At the very least, when it happens, it needs to be unexpected. It can't be planned. So the Niners said, third round pick, take it or leave it, and Washington bit. Now, I'm a little bit surprised that there wasn't another team out there that was willing to top San Fran's offer because most third round picks are going to be better than the Niners' third round pick. But there are some red flags with Chase. The injuries, he's not very good against the run. I think there's some questions about his effort. He's giving effort right now because it's a contract year, but I think there are going to be some teams out there that are hesitant to give him the monster money that he's going to want after this year because there's a concern that he'll take the money and not try as hard. It seems like there's some of that stuff circling around him. So maybe there aren't that many teams out there willing to give up that kind of money. I think there will be at least one team that does it because there's always at least one, and all you need is one as a player. But maybe there just wasn't that guy out there, that team out there rather, who had the pick to give up and the willingness to pay him and the salary cap space to pay him in the first place. So that's my best guess why this was cheaper than Leonard Williams. However, this trade does kind of emphasize how important it is that the Seahawks extend Leonard Williams beyond this season. Because the fact that Chase Young goes for cheaper, partially because he's guaranteed pretty much to be a 1 year rental, indicates that we cannot let Leonard Williams be a 1 year rental. If Leonard Williams is a 1 year rental, that's kind of a bad trade, unless he helps us win the Super Bowl. If that happens, then it's whatever. Who cares? He can walk if he wants to. We won the Super Bowl. But short of that, yeah. So that's really how I look at this one. It's a good trade for San Fran. Remember, if Chase Young walks next year, which I'm pretty sure he will, San Fran will get a third round pick back as a compensatory pick in 2025. So really, they've only lost about a round worth of value going from the third to the fourth, because NFL nomenclature is that, or, typically speaking, in the NFL draft, if a pick is pushed out by a year, it loses a round of value. So the Niners really gave up very little to do this. So it's a good trade. Even if Chase Young doesn't really play that well, it's a good trade. Now, this is definitely San Fran adding on to a position of strength because they already had Bosa, and they on that defensive line, they also have guys like Armstead. And honestly, Randy Gregory's played fairly well for them since he got there. So this is definitely a position of strength they're adding on to. It's going to be hard to deal with. Now, if there's a silver lining here, it means the Niners were not able to address their position of weakness, which is cornerback. Jalen Johnson stayed put in Chicago. There were some cornerbacks that got traded, but I think one of them went to the Bills. I think there was one more trade out there, but nothing to the Niners, so they were not able to fix that issue with their roster. You wouldn't really call defensive line an issue for the 49ers. They just made it better. So that was about it in terms of stuff that was directly relevant to the Seahawks. I guess Joshua Dobbs got traded to the Vikings, but I don't think we really care. By the time we play the Cardinals in January, they're probably going to have Kyler back anyway, and Josh Dobbs may never play again for that team, even if he was there. So I don't really think that matters to us. The Vikings, I know they traded, I think it was Ezra Cleveland, and the Browns traded Donovan Peoples-Jones. There wasn't really a whole lot else that was even tangentially related to the Seahawks. The Broncos decided to stand pat because they couldn't find takers. Surprise, surprise. Um, yeah, that's really about all the stuff that I'm aware of. And at the end of the day, this is the big thing that Seahawks fans are going to be thinking about. So I wanted to get Carl Lawson, but it's certainly not the end of the world. We just need Frank Clark to pick things up quickly here and become a relevant player by the end of the season, and it should be all right. So San Fran gets Chase Young, and they are going to be a problem for this year for sure. They already were. I mean, I know they've lost 3 in a row, and we're all having a lot of fun with it, but they're still a problem, and probably going to be a bigger problem now. All right, I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. That's your trade deadline. Seahawks make one pretty big move. Now San Fran's made a move. Got to keep up with the Joneses, or however they put it. And I will see you guys later on. More videos later.